money. Your time is that, you got to learn the process, and you can do that. Or you're going to have to pay somebody else to do it, okay, that kind of knows the ropes, right? So that's really it. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Did I make it worse for y'all? Are y'all more confused now than before? I didn't know anything about Vantage. Any questions? I know I'm talking to the 800 crowd. No questions? Yes, sir. Oh, no, I don't have any identification or no, I'm just playing with you.
Sir, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say thank you because, growing up, I never had anybody to talk to me about credit and what it meant. I kind of had to figure it out on my own and making mistakes along the way. And, to see you stand there and just really break it down, my prayer would be that more people can hear that.
Yes, sir.
Especially at a young age, because decisions we make today have an effect on what we can do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we go through life stumbling over and over and over and hitting our head against the wall because we don't know anything.
Right.
So again, just listening to your testimony and how you're just talking about resources that are available, if we could somehow just get our young people at least to be, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And that means a lot coming from you. I mean, because you've seen that. And that was one of the things that I said in the beginning was that I messed up my credit at a very early age because I didn't know anything about it. And you get to a point to where when you want to start a business, you want to do something, at that point it's very difficult. So thank you for that. Yes. Okay. Oh, she getting shy now.
So I need a credit card. I don't have one, but and I'm not sure how to go about it. And I just graduated college.
Okay, congratulations. And you went through college and didn't have a credit card? Your mama taught you right, huh? I mean, it's just a matter, do you have a banking relationship with anybody, checking accounts or anything?
I do.
Okay, yeah, you can go to your bank and apply. But the thing is, you got to know where you stand with your credit because sometimes they'll give like beginner cards. When people don't have a credit history, a lot of times I recommend for them to get a secure credit card. So like you can get, if you got a credit union or anything like that, you can get a secure credit card, and that's basically where you give them $300, $400 of your money, and they put it into a credit card form, and you can use that card when you make payments on it. I know it sounds weird because it's your money, but it still helps you establish credit. But there's beginning cards out there too, like Capital One is very good with beginner cards.
So we just checked her FICO score while we were. She had one, but she's never had a credit card.
What did you check in? You check FICO?
We went through her bank, Wells Fargo.
Okay, and it's the FICO report?
Yeah, it says check your FICO score.
Huh.
So I check mine all the time, and she checked hers, and she actually has one.
You don't have no cars in her name, nothing in her name?
I mean, her student loan, but it's not.
That
paid.
counts.
So maybe that's.
Yeah, that counts. That's student loan is counted as an installment loan, even though you're not making payments on it yet. It's still an installment loan, and so that's something that can play a part too, is why she would have a score. But if she has a score like that, she shouldn't have a problem getting a credit card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so I use Credit
Karma.
But I don't get any of, I just use it to monitor, and I use another one. But is that okay? Because I know they send me all the stuff, like you qualify for this, but I limit myself to credit cards.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's okay that I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, you using them to monitor stuff, it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I just warn people to not fall for the traps and stuff like that, because the majority of the people, they're using it just because it's free, and and then they get these different offers and stuff like that. But what you're using it for, is not a bad thing. Now, again, you probably have the other one through Experian to get your Experian report, and so it's nothing wrong with getting all three. You got to keep in mind, though, sometimes when information is being reported accurately, because there are some things that are not on any of those reports, and when somebody go to a lender and apply, it's something that shows up or whatever, medical collection or anything like that. So you just got to be careful, because those scores you're looking at, again, with Credit Karma, that's Vantage. It's not your FICO. And so sometimes there can be difference in reporting there. But it's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Like, I still have Credit Karma. So, but I got other credit monitoring too. All right. Anybody else? We good to go? All right, cool. And thanks Arlington Road. Thank you, Brother Crusoe, for having me. I commend you. As you know, I know a lot of preachers, a lot of churches and stuff. And the churches that I've done this at, mostly, about 95% of them have been churches that I didn't even know before I started Credit Repair. So I want to commend you for inviting me out, because most of the guys that I know in the church that I know haven't invited me out, probably because the title of my book, which stands for Fixed Up My Credit. So I want to commend you for doing that, because that's huge for, you know, a church to offer something like that, because if you can get the people free from bondage, financial bondage, there's a lot more that can be done when it comes to, you know, the ministry and stuff. So thank you.
Jeremy is at home when he comes here, and we love him, and it seems like his presentation was well received, and anything that can help our people be better established, and we appreciate him. And your title did throw us off a little bit. It threw us off. I said, what in the world?
We stuck with it, though.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you, Jeremy, for coming. We're a little bit off schedule, 30 minutes off, and so we're going to rearrange some things. The police chief of Hopewell is here with us, and I'm looking forward to his presentation. I gave it a title. If he wants to go in a different direction, that's fine. The title is Strategies for a Safe Community. Strategies for a Safe Community. And we're going to give Chief Stark about 40 to 45 minutes, and then Q&A after that, if you have some. We're concerned, if you watch the news, if you read USA Today, there's a lot of things that happens between police and law enforcement. Let me say law enforcement and community. So I thought it would be wise to have someone who represents law enforcement come and talk to us. We can ask questions. I'm concerned about young black men, young black people. How should we engage law enforcement? What should we say? What should we not say? How should we conduct ourselves? Where should our hands be? Those kind of things. What's improper? Whatever question we can generate. But before he comes, I want to present something to him. Chief Starks, if you'll come here. We've got a little token of our appreciation for you coming. Know that you have a very busy schedule, but this is our 75th year in Hopewell. The church started in 1947, so this is part of our celebration. So we have a plaque to you, Chief Stark. Community Day, September 3rd, 2022, to Arlington Road Church of Christ. Appreciation to Police Chief A.J. Stark. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
God bless. And if you'll just clip this on so we can get you on the mic. Excellent. And the floor is yours, sir.
Excellent. Well, let's give Brother Roberts, Jeremie, another hand, please. You know, I sat back there listening to him speak, and I was inspired. And you know, I came here today, and I know, Dr. Caruso, you know, you would like for me to talk about some law enforcement stuff and community, and I'll get to that. But listening to Brother Roberts just reminded me of how important it is just for us to educate our young people at an early age. Because I was sitting there listening to him talk about all the mistakes that I made growing up. And that's where I want to start from today. You see me wearing this uniform, and I'm going to move around. Thank you for the microphone, Dr. Caruso. That gives me the ability to move around and still be heard. But you see the uniform. And some of you may have read a bio that said that this person, his name is A.J. Stark. And some of you may have seen the bio, and it said that he spent 30 years with Chesterfield County Police Department. Some of you may have seen the bio, and it said he graduated from Virginia State University. Somebody may have read in the bio that he got a master's degree at Liberty. Somebody else in here may have read the bio to say, you know what, he spent time in the military. Somebody else may know me personally and say he's married and he's got 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren. And then some of you may have met me on the street and we may have had a conversation in passing. But that's not where I'm going to start today. I want to go back. Because just like with Brother Roberts talking about you don't know what you don't know and the mistakes that we make along the way, my goal today is when I finish that you know me as a person, that you don't just know the uniform, you don't just know the title, but you know the person that's wearing the uniform. That's my goal for today. And I want you to ask questions. If there's anything that I say that sparks a question, let's talk, because that's the only way we can grow and move forward, is we got to be real with each other. So I don't know if you've ever heard the term real talk. I don't know if it's a real thing, but I use it a lot, real talk. Real talk means it doesn't sound the way you might want to hear it. Real talk is, it is what it is. Real talk is, you might have said it a different way, but this is the way I chose to say it because I'm me and you're you. So real talk. Rewind the clock a little bit. My parents divorced when I was young. I started out growing up in Brunswick County. That's on the other side of Dinwiddie, for those of you that don't know where Brunswick is. Nottoway Acres, a mile up from Nottoway Motel off of Route 1 as a little boy. That's all I knew. My parents moved to Ettrick, Virginia when I was a young teenager. I went to Matoka Middle School. Going through that transition when my parents separated and spending the summer with Dad and spending the rest of the time with Mom and being in between and trying to figure out who I am in this big world. One thing I figured out early on at about 16 years old is that I wanted to be a police officer. And I remember telling someone in my family, I want to be a police officer when I grow up. And I want to work for Chesterfield County Police Department. And I remember that individual saying to me, and I'm 16 years old and we're under a shade tree, and that individual said, well, don't get your hopes up, because Chesterfield don't hire a lot of blacks. And I remember the feeling I had at that moment. But I want to be a Chesterfield police officer. That's all I knew. But I always heard what I was told by someone that I love very much: don't get your hopes up, because Chesterfield don't hire a lot of blacks. So going through school, I was an athlete. I played football, I played baseball. I love being part of a team. I love being in the huddle. And what I love most about being part of a team is I love the fact that everybody has an assignment on the team. The only way we can be successful is everybody has to know their role. That's how we can advance or accomplish our goal. And that's what attracted me to being part of a team. In high school, my grades were good, but because my parents were divorced, and if there's ever, if there's ever anybody in here that grew up in a family where mom and dad are not together and child support's a part of it, I told you real talk. When you need something and mom says, ask dad, and dad says, but I'm paying child support, and you feel like you're in the middle of that. So I knew in high school that I didn't want to be in the middle of that. So I chose to go in the Army. I didn't even think about going to college, because college, one, I didn't have anyone to educate me on how to get there, what it took or what was the process. I didn't know those things. I didn't know. You know, I hear some families, young people, you know, parents make a goal. I made a goal for my kids: you will go to school. But back then, you don't know what you don't know. So I go in the Army, love the Army. The Army was very easy for me because I like being part of a team. And I excelled, did well. But I knew I wanted to be a police officer. And I wanted to be a police officer in Chesterfield County. So even though I was in the Army and I was stationed away from home, I'm talking to people that don't know where Chesterfield is, saying, when I get out the Army, I'm gonna be a police officer in Chesterfield County. That was my goal. So I get out of the Army in 1990, and I come home, and I'm working at Rite Aid, Cavalier Square in Hopewell, if anybody ever remember that. And I hated that job. But at night, I was loading and unloading trucks at UPS, doing the two. But I wanted to be a Chesterfield police officer. And I remember taking the test for the police department. And I remember I was the assistant manager at Rite Aid, but the manager at the time looked at me and said,
they ain't gonna hire you. I don't know why you're doing that. They ain't gonna hire you. And I remember that feeling of someone looking at me saying, they ain't gonna hire you. But I took the test. But what I got to tell you about the test, I'm going somewhere, folks. I don't want to bore you, but I'm going to wrap this up, and you're going to understand why I'm sharing this with you today, because there's a testimony in here that might apply to you or someone else. The morning that it came to take the test for Chesterfield Police, the department that I wanted to work for ever since I was 16 years old, I was working 2 jobs at the time. I had unloaded trucks the night before at UPS. I had gotten off work at 3 in the morning, had came home, taken a shower, and gone to bed, and I had to be at Rite Aid the next afternoon, and I had to work from 1 p.m. to close. So my plan became then, instead of going to take the test, I'm going to sleep in because I got to go to work today. But I had a friend that I had played football with on the high school football team, and he had taken the test before and failed, but he was taking the test again. And he called me and said, yo, dog, you ready? I'm coming to pick you up. And I said, man, I worked last night, and I got to go into Rite Aid this afternoon. I'm going to sleep in, dog. You go ahead. Good luck. He said, no, we doing this together. I'm coming to pick you up. All you got to do is ride. I said, look, man, we wasting our time. Because remember, I had somebody in my family said, don't get your hopes up because they don't hire too many black. I got all this negativity going on in my head. And I got to go to work this evening. So now I've resorted to the fact that I'm just going to sleep in. But I had a friend that pushed me a little bit. And he came and he picked me up. And he drove me to L.C. Byrd High School. We walk into the gymnasium, and there's 700 people in the gymnasium applying for the job. And a police officer stepped forward, and he says, we have 30 positions available, and there's 700 of you here testing today. I look at my friend, I said, man, I could have stayed in bed. They're not going to hire us. He said, no, man, we got this, we got this. And we go through and we sit down, we take the written test. And as I'm taking the written test, on the other side of my brain, I'm thinking, I got to go to work this evening. And I got to work till 9 o'clock tonight at Rite Aid, the job that I hate. When we finish taking the test, they send you off to have lunch or whatever you want to do and come back at a certain time to find out whether you passed or not. And the whole time we're at Burger King sitting across from each other, my friends just, yeah, I know I got it this time. I know I got it this time, Jay. I got it. And I'm sitting there going, I'm glad you do because I don't think I did too good. We get back and he was much taller than me. And remember 700 people standing in the hallway to look at a bulletin board to see whether they passed or failed. He was tall. He was able to look over everybody's head and he looked at it. And I heard the response, dang it. I failed again. And I turned and started walking away. And he said, what did you get? I said, don't matter, I'm riding with you. If you didn't pass, then let's go. He said, no, let's see what you did. So I gave him my last 4 and he looked up on the board and he says, Jay, you passed. I said, but we can go ahead and leave because I'm riding with you. I'm not gonna keep you here. Plus I gotta go to work today. He said, no, you passed, you're gonna stay. And we had to take the physical fitness test. And that's where we had to do push-ups, as many push-ups as you could in a minute, as many sit-ups as you could in a minute. And you had to run 1.5 miles. And keep in mind, I just came off of military active duty. I've been loading and unloading trucks. I'm in the best shape of my life. But what I remember most about that time, and we're talking 31 years ago, when I got down to do the push-ups in the gymnasium of Byrd High School, I could hear this voice going, that's it, Jay, push. That's it, that's my man, push, push, keep pushing. It was my friend that had failed. When it came time to do sit-ups, and I'm down and I'm doing my sit-ups, and I could hear this voice going, that's it, push it out, knock it out. That's my dog, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. It was my friend that had failed the test. When we went outside to do the 1.5 mile run, we stretched and we take off. And I'm running and I'm back in my days of being in the military and it was easy. And I'm just doing what I do. But what I remember is when I got to the turnaround point and started coming back, about 200 yards, 100 yards before the finish line, guess what voice I could hear? My friend that didn't pass the test. He was jumping up and down and he was excited because I was leading the pack and he was pumped. And I remember getting in the car that day and we drove home, and he was telling me how proud he was at how I did in that process. I was going to Tabernacle Baptist Church in Petersburg. Go to church that Sunday, and little did I know, one of the deacons at the church, who I never had officially met until that Sunday after I took the test, he comes up and introduced himself and said, "I saw you yesterday." And he tells me that he works for Chesterfield Police Department. You see how God works things? I didn't know any of that. So go through the process. And even though I had someone that I love to this day very much that said, "Don't get your hopes up, because Chesterfield don't hire a lot of blacks," I was hired. And my career began in law enforcement 31 years ago. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about what that experience was like in Chesterfield. Because you would think it would be all roses, because I got my dream job. I remember being in the police department and feeling like you didn't fit. I remember going to roll call and being in a room with other police officers wearing a uniform like me, and no one really talking to me. They talking to each other, but no one really, and they talk about what they did the weekend and what they're going to do next weekend and where they're going to go for lunch, and you're just kind of there. I don't know if anybody ever experienced that, but you hold your head up, and you know, you've worked hard to get there, but still you still don't feel like you fit. Remember going my first day in field training. I get in the car, and my training officer looks at me and says, "Is it true what they say about you?" And I'm a brand new, just out the academy, got my new uniform on, I'm excited, I'm in a police car, and he's supposed to be training me, and the first question he asked before I even put the seatbelt on is it true what they say about you? And I said, "What are you talking about?" "All your classmates say that you're a snitch. People say that if somebody does something wrong, you're going to tell on them." And I'm like, what are you talking about? "Well, apparently there was some training in the academy, and you said that something," and it was talking about gratuities. I remember to this day what the class was. It was about gratuities. Don't take something if someone offers you something, and was talking about policies. And I made the statement as a youngster, and I stand by it today, I'm not losing my job over something that I know is wrong. I'm not losing my job by taking something that I'm not supposed to accept. And someone translated that to, "He'll tell on you." And the word was out before I even got started. So at every step through my career, it seemed like there were obstacles. And they weren't always, but it was just something there that I had to deal with. I said real talk. We are changing police chiefs. Someone is fighting for the job to be chief in Chesterfield. And they call me into the office and they say, "You know, I know you have some challenges, but if I become police chief, there's some things I'm going to do differently." Was that just an admission? Are you admitting that you know that there's some stuff in the atmosphere and that I'm dealing with some stuff and we're dealing with stuff? Did you just admit to me that if you get the job, so if you don't get the job, we got to continue to, I don't know, maybe you missed that one. But I didn't, because it continued no matter who. And I say this, but Chesterfield was a great place to work, but it was some challenges. I get another one. I'm raising children. And by now, I'm a supervisor, and I have a young officer call me and say, "Sarge, I need to speak to you. Can you meet me?" And I said, "We can't talk on the phone." "No, I need to meet you." And I drive to this location, I meet him, and he's chain smoking cigarettes. And he says, "I'm a parent. If somebody was doing to my kids what I'm about to tell you, I would want to know." And I'm like, "Kids, what are you talking about? I'm concerned." This goes back to the days before Facebook, when they had this social media called MySpace, okay? Well, I had been a supervisor, and I had to reprimand one of the officers. He did, and I just had it was a conversation. It was a conversation about how we're going to do business going forward and things that we need to notify each other of. But what I didn't realize was I had pushed a nerve. So what that person did was they created a fake MySpace page of, and sent a request to my son and hopes that my son would accept the friend request of a female, fake female that was, and on my son's page was a lot, on that page, that fake page was a lot of stuff. And if my son had just accepted out of curiosity to be friends with this fake thing, then it would have set the stage to say, his son is in this group. And this officer knew about it, and he was telling me. The officer was immediately fired. He was immediately let go, immediately terminated. I'm telling you all this because you see me standing here today wearing a uniform, but I want to go back and just talk to you a little bit about just some of the things. Because when I tell you that it would have been easy to quit, that it would have been easy to walk away and say, you know what, I'm out. Working in vice and narcotics. Coming in every day to work and hearing your coworkers again talking, but not talking to you. But you come in and you do your job and you work hard. For me, I believe it inspired me to dot the I's, cross the T's, and work hard. But it was difficult and it was challenging. I share all of that because going through 30 years and working my way through, I'm sitting in front of one of the deputy chiefs who's long retired, and he's doing my evaluation. And at the bottom of the evaluation, he has to put some personal goals, some things that I want to accomplish. And by now, I'm a captain in the department. And he says, so Captain Stark, what are some of your goals that you haven't achieved that you would like to accomplish? And I said, well, sir, I started going to college, and then life happened, and I didn't get a chance to finish. So my personal goal is I want to go back to school and get my bachelor's degree. And he looked at me and he says, well, if you haven't done it by now, you're probably not going to do it. It hurt. It hurt. But I will tell you that when I went back to Virginia State University, I was determined, no matter what happened, that I would not quit. And I had told myself going through that process, I don't need to go to graduation. I just send me my diploma in the mail. I just want to get it. Just send it to me. I don't need to go. But the closer it got to graduation, the more excited I started to become. Thinking about all the obstacles and all the things, and I became a kid again, couldn't wait for graduation. I was blessed because my mom and dad was able to come to graduation. And I remember being in the back at the multipurpose center there on campus. And when I heard the music playing as we were about to walk out, and I cried like a baby, thinking about all the obstacles and all the people who said, if you haven't done it by now, you're probably not going to do it. I'm sharing with you because I hope it inspires someone to know, don't ever let someone tell you what you can't do. Don't ever give up on your dreams. Even when things are happening that are negative, even when you are justified in quitting. Because when I think back on the journey, there were a lot of things that I could have quit. And I told myself, when I graduated, I'm done. I'm not going back to school. I'm done. And 6 months later, I went back to Liberty University and started the master's program. And I remember going through that master's program, staying up late at night, writing papers and wanting to throw in the towel and asking myself, and having people I work with saying, why are you doing this at this age? You know, well, I don't know if I could do this at this age. You know, go back and what is it costing to get a master's degree at this age? And what are you going to do with it at this age? Again, all this talk is enough to make you sometimes question, why am I doing this? Are they right? But I knew one thing. With everything that I've experienced in my career and watching the narrative of police and community and the divide and the lack of trust, I feel like I get it. That I know what it's like to be a community member, but I also know what it's like to be a police officer. And some of the problems that we've encountered, I understand why the community Haven't trusted the police because of the things that we've seen. Some of the things that have upset me and upset me. I knew I wanted to be a police chief. And one thing I knew is I never wanted someone to say, well, you can't be a police chief because you're not qualified. And that's what motivated me to go back to school, to get my bachelor's. That's what motivated me to go back to Liberty to get my master's. If I never became a police chief, it wouldn't be because I wasn't qualified. Hopewell. I knew all about Hopewell. I grew up in Matoka, Ettrick area, knew where Hopewell was, have traveled through Hopewell my entire life. If you had asked me 5 years ago, are you going to Hopewell Police? I would have said, why? Why would I go to Hopewell? So I'm minding my own business. And by now, I've gotten to a place in my career where I'm doing a lot of teaching around the state. I'm working very closely with Virginia Association, Chief of Police, we call them VACP. And I'm getting a chance to travel around, and one of the classes that I teach is called You Don't Know What You Don't Know. It's a big portion of Real Talk. And I get a chance to go around to different police agencies and just talking. A lot of what I share are some of the experiences, because believe it or not, there are so many that just would not believe that certain, and maybe they believe but don't want to admit. And I believe we're at a place that we have to have real talk. We have to put it on the table. Don't just assume, but we have to talk about it. So I get a phone call from VACP to tell me that the Hopewell police chief is leaving. Have you ever thought about going to Hopewell? I said, actually, I have not. They said, well, there are a lot of people who believe that you would make an excellent police chief. You really ought to think about applying. So I started thinking about the process. And when I was brought into Hopewell, I was brought in under the umbrella of, we want an interim police chief that is not going to apply for the job. We want an interim police chief that is not going to apply for the job. That was difficult because it's like, so what are you saying? Okay, if I come, I can't compete for the job. It was confusing to me. But I talked about it with my wife, and we prayed about it. And what became clear was, don't focus on applying, focus on the opportunity that God is presenting you with. And once I was selected as interim chief, what I learned very quickly in the process, again, Hopewell has a lot of good people working, men and women in that department. Hopewell has a lot of good people in this community and that community field. And immediately, that was the draw for me. But even with that, it was difficult because being interim for so long in the police department started off great, real talk, but going through the process, and because no decision was made as to who the chief was going to be, it got tough within the Hopewell Police Department. I went through a period as interim, something that you don't know about is as the interim chief, I went through a period where it was almost like there were people thinking, they haven't hired him yet, so he's probably not going to be our chief. So maybe there's going to be some other plans out there. And it just made communication very difficult. What I believe is this: when God speaks and ordains and touches a situation, it doesn't matter what others around say. Because going through Chesterfield and all the things that I'm telling you about, some of you would say, well, why would he stay and why would he go through that? I believe God put me there. I believe it was designed for me to be there. What I didn't know through that 30 years is that God was preparing me for an assignment. I didn't know what that assignment was. I didn't even know I was being prepared. I thought I was just working. I thought I was just doing my job. But when I look back on it, at the obstacles, the challenges, and the things that were unfair, all of that was growing and developing me. All of that was shaping me. All of that was testing me to find out, are you built for this? Coming into Hopewell as interim, some of the challenges I faced that none of you know about, I believe all of that was part of the process. It would have been easy to walk away. But what happened through that time of being interim, I went from not being eligible to apply to community members stepping forward and saying, why can't he apply? There were many council members that stepped forward and say, why is he not in the process? Why are we not considering? I didn't have to open my mouth. I didn't have to say a word. And then suddenly the rules change, and I was able to apply. I share that because now that I am the permanent chief of the Hopewell Police Department, we have established some strategic goals, and I want to share them with you today. When we talk about strategic goals, there are 4 things that every police officer must understand. And anyone who works in that organization, our organization, must understand. There are 4 things. Why do we do what we do? Why do we exist? Preservation of life. You know, when we look across the country, all of you heard about in Texas that school shooting that happened. Anybody wonder why it took so long for a decision to get made? Anybody ever wonder that? Why would it take so long with shots being fired in a school? Would it take so long for law enforcement to act? Number 1, preservation of life. We have a responsibility to protect preservation of life. Number 2, protecting the vulnerable. There are a lot of victims, not just in our community, but across the country. Why do we exist? To protect the vulnerable. Preservation of life and protecting the vulnerable. There are a lot of problems, not just in our community, but across the country. And we focus on creating problem-solving partnerships. How do we do that? We do that through relationships. I believe that for so long, police have been in the mode, not just in Chesterfield, but Hopewell and across the country. We have been focused on just doing a job and not getting to know the people that we work with and work for. It's relationships. It's real talk. When we start to have real talk, just like Brother Jeremy, when we start to come forward and educate and have these times that we truly, truly peel back the layers and we're real with each other, that's how we move forward. That's how we protect life. That's how we establish relationships. It's problem-solving partnerships. And then the 4th P that I ask everybody to understand, that the only way that we can continue to grow as an organization in Hopewell is we have to procure top-tier talent. And the way we do that is we have to be a professional organization. We have to be credible in the eyes of our community. We have to be credible in the things that we do. We have to be responsive, but we have to follow through. And people have to see us being consistent as we follow through. And that's what we're driving home. So I talk to you today, again, real talk, and it doesn't sound pretty, but you see the person standing here today that's wearing a uniform. But what I want you to understand is it wasn't easy. And what I want you to understand is along the way, there were a lot of opportunities to quit and would have been justified to just throw up the hands and give up. But what I would also challenge anybody that's hearing my voice today, the enemy wants us to quit. The enemy wants us to not believe. We got to stay together. One of the things Dr. Caruso asked us today, he asked me, Chief, what are some things we can do as a community? We got to get to know each other. We got to get to know each other. We got to have real conversations. We got to have real talk. We have to do that. You know, we're making a lot of progress. In fact, there's some announcements I'm looking forward to making in the future. We went through a crime spree since I've been here, right after I was appointed as permanent chief. We had 2 double homicides that occurred within days of each other. 2 of them. You haven't heard a lot, but I want to tell you this. We are making progress. We are making progress. We're making giant strides. And that is very important to us. It's important to me as a chief because you all need to know that people are going to be held accountable, that when these crimes happen, that the police are actually doing something about it, not just showing up, taking a police report, and then you never hear anything. My other goal is I want you to know what's going on in Hopewell. So yes, it may seem like we're on the news more or we're there, but media releases are important. Because I believe that goes with the credibility piece. If you know that something is happening, but you never hear about it, then you start to wonder and think nothing's being done about it. We have to have that dialogue. We have to have that communication. A lot of the things that go on in Hopewell, it's evident people know who's doing it. For every crime that's committed, somebody out there knows who did it. But people make a decision not to get involved. And I understand the fear factor. I understand that. And that's where the chief and the rest of the men and women in the organization, we have to develop that credibility where people can feel confident that we're going to handle things appropriately and we're not going to put someone in harm's way. And it takes time. Trust doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. We have to earn it. We have to earn it. I hope today that you will have a better understanding of how I got to where I'm at. How did I end up in Hopewell? I would like to open the floor for questions. Any of you have any questions of me? Anything? Well, I have questions for you. As I do the community walks and I go through the various communities, I ask every resident that I come in contact with, what are some things you think we can do better as a police department? And I ask that question because I want to know. I don't want people to assume that the chief knows he's just not doing anything about it. So when I'm out there knocking on doors and I'm interacting, I constantly ask, looking at the Hopewell Police Department, what are some things you think we could do better? I'd like to ask you that today as an audience. And through real talk, now that we've defined what that is, I would ask you, please share. What are some things you think we could do better? Yes, sir.
I don't live here in Hopewell, but my city is just like your city in Newport News, Virginia. One question, our young people, our teenagers, our young men and young women that's out there, how do we, and I say we, you and I, community, how do we really try to reach them and let them know that your position is there for a purpose and a reason? How can we convey to them that don't be afraid to consult or talk with our law enforcement today, in today's time? I know a lot of them don't, like you just said, the fear factor thing that goes on. But all in all, how do we get them to trust us, to believe in us again, like we once was years and years ago?
Excellent question. I want to talk to you about our Good to Great program here in Hopewell. That's a program that we started over the last several months. It's called Good to Great, and I'll tell you where it came from. Good to Great Youth Intervention Program, we had our first session that graduated about 3 weeks ago, and we have our second session that'll be beginning in 2 weeks, the end of September. But through the Good to Great program, we have focused on the age group between 14 years old and 17 years old. And the reason we're doing that, to your point, is we recognize that in order to make a difference with our young people, we first have to have a relationship with them that we currently don't have. You see, we can't just tell the kids or tell the teenagers, this is what you need to be doing. But when we have a relationship with them, so how do we build that relationship? Through the Good to Great program, we have people from the community, just like you all, that have partnered with us, that come in. We've built picnic tables with the group. It wasn't about the picnic table, it was about using tools. It was about having a project from the start through the finish and seeing the end result. And it's all the conversation and relationships that are built along the way. In addition, through the Good to Great program, we were able to get a grant through the John Randolph Foundation to get this started for the first session, okay? And with that grant, we used money to make sure that every day we were able to provide resources for the teenagers. We also purchased bicycles. Someone said, why do you purchase bicycles for these teenagers? It wasn't about the bike, but we purchased the bikes and we gave them the bikes. We donated the bikes to them, but we also took them out to the Capitol Trail and we rode with them, and we'll continue to ride with them because it wasn't about being on the Capitol Trail, it was the time that we spend together. We also took the same group to a ropes course where there were obstacles, and all of them practically were afraid of heights. And I remember being there and going through the process with them of climbing the ropes and wearing the harnesses and doing the zip lining together. These are kids right here out of Hopewell between 14 and 17. We have mentors, people again, that come in and talk to them, different classes. We spent the first week of intercession. Intercession is when the Hopewell schools let out. So the first week, Monday through Friday, we had that group. And then for 6 consecutive Saturdays, we met with them for 6 consecutive Saturdays. We took them to King's Dominion. It wasn't about going to King's Dominion. It was the time that we spent with them while out there interacting. And the reason through the Good to Great program that we find this important is because we understand we have to develop a relationship with them. And that's where we get to laugh. That's where we get to know them. They get to know me. They get to know our police officers. And it was exciting for me as a chief to see that Monday through Friday, every morning, our officers that were coming in for work for roll call, they would go over to speak to the teenagers. They would go over to introduce themselves to the teenagers. They took pride going in and saying, "Hi, I'm officer. This is where I work. This is where I'm from." They take pride in that. And Good to Great, we started with the help of the John Randolph Foundation. They gave us $22,000 to start the program. They started on a vision. They started because we presented to them and they believed in the vision. We also submitted for a grant, and we were able to get the grant. The grant is in the sum of $153,000 to continue the program. So to your point, I believe the way we're going to reach our young people, the way we're going to make a difference is through relationships, not just with them, but also with the parents. It's relationships. That's the foundation we have to stand on. As a police chief, I recognize that I could put a police officer on every corner if we had that many police officers, and it wouldn't fix anything, because it all starts with the foundation of relationships. That's how we make it better in our community. That's how we're going to change the narrative. That's how we earn the trust. So we start with the Good to Great program, but we're open for any other ideas that come out of that. But we had to start somewhere, and that's where we started here in Hopewell over the last several months. But to your point, Portsmouth or Newport News, Hopewell, any other locality, it's relationships that we have to continue to grow in order for us to be impactful and effective. Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Please. So we stand here, nobody has any questions. All right, what are some things you think we're doing well then? I ask you, what are some things you think we could do better? Great question. Yes, ma'am.
When my kids were growing up, we had neighborhood police in the neighborhood, and they had a relationship because they knew it.
Yes.
Do you think we have to go back to having neighborhood?
I do. And some examples. How many of you, by show of hands only, follow us on Facebook? Okay. Okay. How many of you have Facebook? Okay. A few. For those of you that do have Facebook, I politely would ask if you would consider just following Hopewell Police Department on Facebook. And also as a police chief, I have a page as well, Colonel A.J. Stark, Hopewell Police Chief. I would ask you to search and find that page as well, because you will get a chance to see a lot of activities that we are working on. You would have heard about the Good to Great. You get to see that we have police officers that spend money out of their own pocket over in Davisville and other housing areas where they go into the community and buy ice cream. They bought ice cream during the summer. I'm in my office and have someone come, Chief, you're not gonna believe this, but Officer so-and-so and Officer so-and-so, they just bought Little Caesar's Pizza and they're over there handing it out in the community. And you look and you see all the people gather in the conversation. So to your point on community policing, our officers get it. When we started the Good to Great program, I remember standing up in roll call early one morning just talking about the program. And one of the young officers raised his hand and he says, Chief, I just got one request. If we start it, I just ask that we continue it. That came from a police officer. So our officers, their hearts are in the right place. And what attracted me to Hopewell is they want leadership. And I would tell you and anyone else that can hear, leadership, accountability starts with me. If there's something that's not happening with the Hopewell Police Department, don't blame them, blame me. Accountability starts with leadership. It's my job to develop leadership in this police department. It's my job to make sure that the things we're doing, that they make sense. It's my job to make sure everyone understands the importance of relationships. That falls on me. And if you see an officer out there that is not answering up to that, then you got to question, what kind of leadership does the Hopewell Police Department have? So great question, but yes, community policing, every one of our officers, myself included, we're all community police officers. We all are going to look for ways to strengthen relationships and maintain those relationships. And going back to good to great, not just putting the kids through the program, the sweet part is once they graduate, we had a graduation at the Moose Lodge. It was a very, very well put together graduation. But not only do they, when they graduate, but now they become part of the alumni group. And the alumni group means this. It means I've had a chance to get to know you. We've had a chance to get to know each other. You've graduated from the program. We're going to look for opportunities to spend time together. Whether it's going to a baseball game, whether it's going to VCU, whether it's going on a field trip, we're going to look for opportunities to intentionally reach back to the alumni group and say, hey, we've got a trip going, all expenses paid. We just need your commitment that you're going. And as we graduate the next group from the good to great, we want to grow that alumni group. Our goal is to grow that alumni group, grow the number of teenagers that have gone through the program, grow the number of teenagers that we have established a relationship that we didn't have with, and maintain it, because that's the other part. It's one thing to meet someone and shake hands. It's another thing to actually get to know them and maintain that relationship and look for ways to strengthen it. And that's what we're committed to doing. Great question. Any others? Is there anything that we're doing well that you think or you've seen any improvements in? Any feedback you could give me before Dr. Caruso make me sit down? Anything at all? Sergeant Nichols just walked in. I just would like to introduce Sergeant Cal Nichols. He stopped by today. So how long have you been with Hopewell Police Department?
October will be 5 years.
5 years, okay. And is there anything you'd like to say to the community? I'll just give you that opportunity. You don't have to, but.
I would say community, we look very much for you guys to, if there's a problem, to seek us out. Like many agencies, post-COVID, we're dealing with a bit of an uptick in crimes. Everybody was in a house for a year, year and a half, and now they're outside, and the church is lifted. So I think the most important part is, if you see something you need us, please call us. A lot of times we find out about things after they've happened, and it makes it hard. If you even if they take it from us. We want to get out there, we want to do the right thing. For a small agency, we get busy in the afternoon. But we are here if you need us, please call. And most importantly, I know nowadays a lot of people don't want to talk. When people don't talk, it makes it much harder, not only myself, but my guys, to investigate crimes and things like that. The more that the community opens up and shares this information with us, the more effective we can be for you as an agency. So we definitely need the community's help. We're just a department. You guys live in the community every day. We rely on you, and we welcome your help.
All right, let's give Police Chief Stark a hand. Thank you for coming, sir. Thank you so much. And I got the message. We want to build a relationship. Chief works in law enforcement. I work in corrections, part-time, teaching GED. Also a preacher, so I think if we could merge those three together, build a triangle between church, law enforcement, and corrections, we can make an impact in the community. Thank you again, Chief, for coming. Thank you. Ms. Wilson, are you ready? Ms. Wilson, are you ready? Okay, we're going to move right along, and I'm saying Miss Wilson because I've been messing up her first name all day, and she's got a real interesting topic that she's going to share.
There we go. Can you come here for 1 second?
Hmm.
We figured it out.
Oh, great.
But we got a few questions though.
Yeah.
So
Wait a minute.
okay.
And also, shut that door.
This one.
Yeah, because we got to change the slide too. That we can figure out.
So this one we have a few different views on it. This one's almost like the best, so because the other one's kind of like cut it off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're preaching, we can use.
You can do it.
We can use.
This is what you wanted in StreamYard.
Yeah.
But this is Restream.
That's Restream.
We figured it out.
Great.
So,
Good. Okay.
Would you rather use this view when you're preaching and then the other view when we're singing and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That view when we're singing.
Or even like that.
Just like that the whole way?
Well,
we could go back and forth and break up the monotony.
It's kind of easy.
They will, yeah.
Okay.
I kind of like,
we feel like that's better. Like
I like the split screen.
Split screen?
Yeah. Like if I call for a scripture or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if you're not.
The split screen would be good, like when I read my preaching passage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then come to this, like when you just focusing on.
Okay. We can do that.
Good deal.
All right, hold on a second. I got to figure that out.
Did it move?
Yes.
Okay. You want to leave it like that or we'll swap it? We're figuring it out. As we go.
There we go. Yes. All right. How did you get to
The other screen?
Thank you.
That's the and that's gonna be the minute. We got it.
Where is it?
There we go.
It's gone. Oh, you did it.
I just hit Safari one time.
You just hit what?
Safari one time. I hit Safari, I just clicked it.
Got it. Okay. Hit Safari to
I'm gonna
find
be a
it.
little lost.
It's a little blurry, so that means we're having some.
Bandwidth.
Yeah. Well, it might not be on
I'm
yours.
good on mine.
This is YouTube. So.
YouTube does that for some time. YouTube does that.
Get educated. Education. So you can move to the next slide. Just a bit. There we go.
Testing. Hello. Okay, we need to keep this on mute. Never mind. Testing. Hello. That means they've been hearing us the whole time.
So mental health. So according to the CDC, mental health is our emotional, psychological, and our social well-being. So this affects our mental health, it affects how we think, it affects how we feel, it affects how we relate to others. It affects how we deal with problems, right? It affects how we make decisions. It affects the choices we make. So I want you to do just a self-check, real quick, and just think, how is my mental health? How well am I interacting in my life? How well am I making choices? How well am I making progress towards what I feel I want to do or be? How well am I doing that? Just think about that. So that has to do with your mental health, okay? So then what is mental illness? So mental illness refers to a condition that affects a person's ability to think. It affects their mood. It affects their behavior.
So this includes, but it's not limited to, and you've probably heard some of these terms, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So all of these are conditions that we may encounter that affect our ability to function, okay? But in essence, what I really want to, I guess, make clear to you is that just like we can have physical illness and physical health, right? We have mental health and mental illness, okay? So just because, the thing about mental illness that I think scares people or may prevent them from seeking help has to do with diagnosis. And I just named some of those to you just a moment ago. Anxiety, depression, right? Bipolar, a lot of the diagnoses that you may have heard, and there are many, many more. But I want to say to you, don't be afraid of a diagnosis, because what a diagnosis does is it just defines exactly what the problem is. So thinking about your physical condition, if you were to go to the doctor, because everybody wants to be physically healthy, right? So if something is going on in your body, you need to find out, what is it, right? Is it the flu? Do I have some kind of serious, disease, or am I having an allergic reaction? What is wrong? So what does the medical provider do? They diagnose you, right? And so now it's like, okay, great, I know what it is now. What do I need to do? Do I need to take medicine? Do I need to go to PT? Tell me what I need to do so that I can get healthy again. So I want you to also see that in relation to mental health and mental illness. So you want to stay mentally healthy, but you may have these conditions that we may diagnose. So if you were to come to me and say, this is what's going on in my life, I'm assessing, and I know, the diagnostic criterion, and I might say, okay, I believe you're dealing with trauma or PTSD or something along those lines. So why is that important? So we can provide you with the proper treatment, okay? So don't be afraid of a diagnosis. It just defines what the problem is. And so then next, what we want to do is, once you start to get your treatment, we want you to understand that this doesn't define you for the rest of your life. Some of you may have dealt with the flu or COVID or some of the things that we're contending with. But 5 years from now, are people going to still define you by that? No, because you recovered, right? You got healthy. The same is true with mental illness, right? You may be going through a period of time, maybe you had a tragic loss. There's been a lot of tragic loss. And so you may have symptoms of PTSD or anxiety or major depression. But guess what? You can recover from that and go on and have and enjoy mental health. Okay? So get educated, and I hope that was helpful for you to be more open about what you may need to do for yourself. Remember, the goal is to be the best version of yourself that you can be. So is there anything impeding that? If it is, do what you need to do. So here's the next slide. So we talked about education. So seek treatment. Like I said, I'm a behavioral health therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. We have psychologists. We have psychiatrists. We have licensed counselors. There's school counselors. There's lots of providers out there that can help you identify, what is the problem? Why can I not seem to get beyond this particular barrier? Why am I struggling? Why can I not sleep at night, right? Why am I not able to eat? Why do I keep doing the same negative patterns and behaviors over and over, right? Seek treatment. Find out. Learn about yourself. And so that's what we do. We specialize in human behavior, right? And so we can help you understand. And I promise you, you're not unique. A lot of times we think I'm the only one that's probably suffering with this, or I'm the only one that's dealing with this. I promise you're not. If anybody here can be classified as a human being, then we're all subject to the same kind of stuff, right? We're all dealing with the same kind of stuff. So the question becomes, are you going to overcome it or not? Are you going to do what you need to do to get better? All right, so next slide. Something else I want to encourage you to remove the stigma and to move forward is don't isolate. Don't hide. Don't avoid. You know, don't try to prevent yourself from getting the support that you need by shying away or pretending like nothing's wrong. We all deal with these issues, so you don't have to isolate. The next slide is, don't equate yourself with the mental illness, okay? I think this becomes problematic as well for people. You might hear somebody say, I'm bipolar. I think it would be better to say, I have bipolar disorder, or I'm dealing with major depression, or I'm dealing with chronic anxiety, right? Because it's an illness. Nobody says, I am the flu, right? No, they say, I have the flu. I'm dealing with a particular issue in my body, and I need to recover. So don't equate yourself with the diagnosis if you're given one. And I will tell you this, the whole thing about anxiety is, I mean, not anxiety, but about diagnosis is insurance. They want to know, what are we paying for? They don't want to pay for you to just come and talk, which I think would be great. I mean, we should be able to go talk to somebody if we need help, but they want us to diagnose. And so that's part of the reason for that as well. So don't equate yourself with the mental illness, just like you would not equate yourself with any kind of other medical condition that you might have. You just see it as a challenge that you're currently dealing with that you need to recover from. All right? And then let's go to the next slide. Join a support group. There are lots of support groups out there. I put up here a resource that I think would be really helpful because they offer a lot of supports and different things, and it's NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI.org, NAMI.org. So that's just one of many resources that you might want to learn more about what's going on with me, or learn more about who's out there. Who can I see? Who is available in my area? Another way that you can do that is, of course, your insurance. You can check on the back of your insurance card, and they can provide you a listing of providers in your area, okay? So reach out. You don't have to stay stuck, right? You don't have to stay stuck in a rut. You can move forward. You can enjoy your life. You can make progress. You can accomplish your goals. And then the last thing that I wanted to put up here on the next slide is to let you know that there is help available in our schools. My coworker is going to be coming up after me, and she'll probably talk with you more about this. But Central Virginia Health Services has 2 community-based health clinics in the schools, school-based health clinics. One of them is at Hopewell High School, and the other one is at Petersburg High School. You can actually go into those clinics and get medical support. You can get dental support in one of them, I believe, or both, and you can get behavioral health support. So if you know any of our children or adolescents who could benefit from this type of care, maybe you don't want to have to go find in the community. It'd be easier if they could just do it at school. The service is available. And I think, Robin, there's applications if people want to sign up for that service. It's available. Remember, let's go to the next slide. In conclusion, not going to be before you long, but it's important to take care of both your physical and mental health. It's your life. You only get one. Thank you. So, thank you for that. Any questions about anything that I've shared with you or that you might have had about mental health or mental illness? No? Oh, okay.
Oh, it's not, I don't know about mental health. I had the opportunity to go to my doctor, and I was diagnosed with having sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea, yes.
So I have to go on the machine.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I was in fear of going on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And those that don't know me are the ones that do know me. And when I see people like I walked around here, because it was a blessing to come home where I grew up in this church. And I think about my mother, the things that she has did for us in raising us. And then I was thinking about having to take that test. I was in fear, but like you said, there's nothing to fear but yourself.
That's right.
And I tell people, I just put it in Lord's hand. If I have to go on the machine at night and sleep, I do it. The lady said, and I asked, I said, what's the purpose of me getting on the machine? He said, because you just stop.
Wow, right. Right.
But to say that, I just basically, and the ones that know me from my church family and see how I do in the church, and I'm a quiet person. Like I came around here today, hollering and curling. It's just me. It's the joy that I have within myself. And my husband, of course, sometimes wants to tell me to be quiet. I said, no, I'm not going to be quiet. I have to keep on building myself up and knowing that as I sit here now, the Lord is with me.
That's right.
That what basically keeps me going. Yes.
And we need you. And we need you to take care of yourself so that you can continue to bring to life what you were called to bring. And that's all of us. You know, we all have a part. I like to use the analogy of a puzzle. You know, we are like, God has this great big puzzle, and there are all of these pieces. Each one of us is a piece of that puzzle, right? And think about it. If you had a puzzle with, like, let's say 50,000 pieces and one piece was missing, would that puzzle look right? No, because we need every piece to have a complete package. And so all of you are a piece of God's puzzle, and we need you. So take care of yourselves physically and take care of yourselves mentally as well. No fear, right? No fear. Thank you. I think you're next.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't think I'm gonna need their microphone because my voice carries. Yeah, if you would. Let me ask a couple of questions first. How many people in here are on Medicare? Pass them those. Okay. And everybody else is gonna pass these two. I didn't bring my jump drive with me.
Miss Tyler, I need to mic you up.
Oh, you gonna record me?
I'm gonna let you mic it.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else with Medicare?
Okay, she got the Medicare one. Ma'am, you have commercial health insurance? Oh, my bad, I'm sorry. Medicare? Who's not on Medicare? No, not.
Oh, well, she needed one.
Oh, for Medicare?
Yeah.
For Medicare in the back? Oh, somebody got my original copy, but that's fine. Oh, you probably gave it out, but it's fine. I have it. You're not on Medicare. You're not on Medicare. All right, let's get here and so I can get started. Again, my name is Robin Tyler. To the community, I am the outreach coordinator for CVHS Health Services. I'm just going to give you an overview on CVHS Health Services before we start. We are a nonprofit, federally qualified community health center. We are the oldest and the largest community health center in the state of Virginia, operating with 20 locations across Central Virginia. But in this area, we have 7 locations. We have Hopewell, Prince George, over by the Crossings. Then we have the Hopewell School-Based Health Center inside of Hopewell High School. Then we have 4 locations in Petersburg. We have one located inside of Petersburg High School. We have our OBATE, which is our office-based addiction treatment services. And then we have 2 standalone health centers, CVHS Petersburg and CVHS Downtown Petersburg. And how these centers operate, we offer medical, dental, behavioral health, and pharmacy services on a sliding scale fee, regardless of your insurance status. In our school-based health centers in Petersburg, it is open to all the students in the Petersburg public school system, as well as their immediate families. In our Hopewell School-Based Health Center, it's for all the students in the school system, as well as anybody in the community. It doesn't matter where you live. You can go to that location in the high school, or you can be seen at our location over in the Crossings, located in Hopewell, Prince George. In all of our offices, we also have an outreach department. It is the duty of the outreach representative to educate and inform and assist enrollment into health insurance. I'm gonna start off, seniors, let me do the basics of the HCA with the ones that don't qualify for Medicare as of yet. The Affordable Care Act is where it started at. Back in 2013, 2010, the bill actually got signed into law by President Obama, that everyone would have the option to have health insurance. Anyone that was over the 138% of the FPL would qualify to receive health insurance, whether they did not have it on their job or their job was charging them too much, because we all know that health insurances can be very expensive. So with that, it became that each person would have minimal essential coverage. That means that mammograms, pap smears, PSAs, all that will be covered free of charge, as well as colonoscopy screenings. Everybody would be able to get one physical once a year and not be charged for it. And then also, this also made it that children could remain on their parents' health insurance until the age of 26. Insurances can no longer ding you for having pre-existing conditions. This act also made it harder for insurance to cancel coverage. There's no lifetime annual caps on services offered, and it limits on annual customer costs and out-of-pocket maximums. It also reduced bankruptcy, you all. People didn't have to file bankruptcy as much due to medical bills. And the ACA made it possible for financial assistance to individuals that went into the marketplace to purchase insurance. It started phasing out Medicare Part D, the donut hole. It also made rates could only be adjusted by age, geographic location, their smoking status, and not gender or medical conditions. All right, so what is the marketplace health insurance? The federally facilitated marketplace is a place like Amazon. How many people in here have shopped on Amazon? Wow. So with the health insurance marketplace, I like to call it the Amazon of health insurance. You will go in, and I know in this area last year, we had 56 plans to choose from. So that gave you options to come in and see what you were qualified for. You know, it uses plain language to explain coverage options. And then after even submitting your application, there is still no obligation for you to enroll into a health plan. The basic eligibility to be considered for the marketplace health insurance, you must be a U.S. citizen who is lawfully present, or a non-citizen who is lawfully present in the U.S. for the entire time of coverage. You must live in the service area. A person cannot be incarcerated and not have access to affordable and adequate insurance. Adequate actually means the accrual value of the plan is greater than 60%, while affordable means the plan cost is less than 9.56% of the total household income. Have income between 100% of the FPL and the FPL to receive financial assistance. And your household size. When applying for marketplace health insurance, the household is defined by using the IRS rules for who is included in your tax household. Married individuals must file jointly to receive the financial assistance granted through the marketplace. And those who file as married, filing single, are not eligible to receive assistance with paying for marketplace coverage. And they use the MAGI, and that is the modified adjusted gross income. So that means they count taxable wages, profit from self-employment, tips and gratuities, Social Security benefits, retirement, SSDI and retirement, unemployment benefits, alimony, most recent benefits including VA pensions, interest including tax-exempt interest and rental income. They do not include child support, TANF, Social Security, workers' comp, veterans benefits, proceeds from loans, gifts or inheritance, pre-tax deductions, alimony paid, or Social Security of dependents who aren't required to file taxes. Eligibility for financial help. Premium tax credits will reduce the amount you pay for your premium. You may be eligible if you are between 100 to 400% of the FPL. And then you can also get, some people will qualify for cost sharing reductions. They lower your deductibles, your co-payments, and your out-of-pocket costs if you are under the 250% of the FPL and you pick a silver plan. And if you roll over on that next slide, you'll see the 2021 health insurance eligibility levels. And 2021 numbers were used for coverage for 2022. So 2022's numbers have not come out to us yet, but I'll discuss that when I get to the open enrollment part. But you have a list right here, a graph that will show you the chart on how much you can make in order to qualify for the health insurance marketplace. I'm not gonna go through the scenarios with y'all due to time, But plan selection, there are 3 plans with the health insurance marketplace. You have bronze, silver, and gold. Your bronze plans cover 60% of your medical care. You would be responsible for 40% out of pocket. Silver is 70%, but remember that I said some people will qualify for cost sharing reductions. And if you qualify for cost sharing reductions, sometimes your silver plans cover more than your gold plans that cover 80%. Virginia doesn't have platinum plans, but they do offer catastrophic plans, and catastrophic plans pay less than 60%. Open enrollment for 2022 will begin on November the 1st of 2022. Open enrollment for 2023 will begin on November the 1st and will go through January 15th, 2022. Applications submitted through December will have an effective date as of January 1. Applications submitted after January 2023 will have an effective date of February 1, 2023. You may be able to apply for the health insurance marketplace if you qualify for a special enrollment. And special enrollments are just like if you are dealing with private health insurance. You get married, you get divorced, you have a death, you lose a job, you gain a dependent. Or you move from state to state, not within the same geographical location. And Medicaid and famous applications are accepted throughout the whole year. So back in 2019, I'm going off script, like I can really talk about Medicaid now. In 2019, the governor signed into law that anybody between the ages of 19 and 64 that had income under 138% of the federal poverty line could apply for Medicaid. It's called Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion is just like Medicaid, if anybody in here is familiar with it. Medicaid expansion covers your doctor visits as well as your medications. Medicaid also has 6 different insurance companies that you can choose from. And each insurance company has their various benefits that they offer, but all of them take care of your medical, your dental, and your prescriptions. Each plan now, it's called Smiles for Children, but it covers adults, their fillings, surgeries, extractions, as well as their cleanings twice a year. They do not cover braces unless it is a problem with the individual's mouth, and that is in children. They do not cover it for adults. A typical day, I would like to explain, if you don't qualify for the health insurance marketplace, when we speak with you, your application decision for Medicaid will be evaluated right then and there in real time. So if you know that you or anyone that doesn't have health insurance and is maybe in need of applying, my number is on the top of the PowerPoint presentation that I gave you, and we will be more than happy to assist them with getting enrolled, whether it be through the health insurance marketplace or through Medicaid. And the governor was in town in Petersburg a couple of weeks ago. And in the Tri-City area, it is still people out here that does not have health insurance that still qualifies for Medicaid. They have those numbers. They have ways of tracking it. So please, if you would get the word out that you all know somebody that can help them get enrolled into Medicaid or the health insurance marketplace. Now that's my segment on the marketplace and Medicaid. The next thing I want to talk to you all, the senior connections. And this PowerPoint presentation was presented by the Capital Area on Aging. I'm not going to go through VACAP. The number for VACAP is on the front. VACAP, they help seniors enroll and understand their Medicare benefits. We as CVHS do not dabble that much into Medicare, but I will let you know that we can help you get access to VACAP and sit in with you while you're going through the process with VACAP. But most of you all, y'all are already on Medicare, correct? Do you understand the differences between Part A and Part B, your deductibles and whatnot like that? Is there understanding on that? Okay, so I don't have to go through that part. So my thing to y'all would be, what do y'all want to know about Medicare? Do we have any questions on Medicare? Do you know that open enrollment is about to come? And that during open enrollment is the time that you can come through, and some of you all have different types of Medicare coverage. And that would be the time that you could go through and change you may have Humana, you may have Cigna, you may have Anthem. But starting on October the 1st, that is when the Medicare open enrollment period starts, and you have until December the 15th to make changes to your supplemental plans and everything through Medicare. Medicare comes in two different forms. Usually Medicare starts when you're 65. But if you have a disability that's deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration, you can start receiving your benefits early. If you have Medicare through disability, your first 2 years, you can't apply for Medicaid. But if you are over the 2-year mark, then Medicaid will come in. Then if you are on Medicare right now and you are having difficulties or may need your payment for your Medicare back into your check, you can apply for assistance with social services to get your Medicare premium paid for. But what I'm gonna ask Pastor, because I didn't know until I saw the flyer that he had me up here for Medicare. That's why I gave each and every one of you all that was on Medicare this packet. VACAP can help you. But any more personable questions you may have about Medicare coverage, I will be more than happy to get you a Medicare representative to come in and speak with you. But if y'all have any questions, I will take those questions back and we'll get an answer for you. So do we have any questions? All right, well, thank y'all for having me.